I can't. The problem with Asmongold, I hate this. I hate this so much. But here's the thing. Now that I've told you his background and how he like basically grew up, if you were walking on the street and you saw him, you might think this gentleman is homeless back in the day. Now he's more groomed and stuff like that. But like, I have to ask, as somebody who grew up the way Asmongold did, what do you think he thought, you know? There's this Bill Burr. Like, what do you think he thought? Alrighty, hello everybody. Welcome to another video. You guys already know what it is. This man said something stupid again. Now, before we get started, I just want to let everybody know that... I don't know if this transition was a good idea. We're doing it live. I just want to let everybody know that... Okay, this is good. This is fine. I just want to let everybody know that this review is going to be biased. I'm just gonna, you know, call it how it is. I hold this man in high regard. I know a lot of you people that are part of my community don't like that, and also don't like this man. I could see why. He's very controversial, for lack of a better word. I know a little bit about what he did, and he shouldn't have done it. On the other hand, I think he's been dealing with a lot of stress, you know. Commenting on politics on a daily basis can be very difficult to do. And doing it with such a large audience, I can only imagine the pressures that it holds. So we're going to see what he said. And, you know, I'm very curious to see what's got everybody's feathers so ruffled. Although next week this thing will probably be forgotten about. So you know how the world turns.
What's up, everyone? If you're seeing this, that means I've probably been banned. That's right. Cancel culture has finally come for me. Oh my God, it's over. It's over. The free speech warriors. Where are you now?
Okay. Ah! You know how he always cringes at other people? This is his first time doing something like this. So, I've never seen him in this light. It's a little cringy. I like it.
Taken me out, ladies and gentlemen. It's over. I'm done. A couple days ago, I had a conversation where I was responding to the Republican House of Representatives Speaker, and I said some things. Let's take a look at what I said. Libs of TikTok, of course, posted about it. Here is what Libs of TikTok claimed I was saying. Hassan Parker just called for violence against a sitting U.S. senator. If you cared about Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott at FBI. This got 17,000 likes. This was on February 28th. Let's take a look at this clip really quickly.
There's about $50 billion estimated that are lost every year in Medicaid just in
Wait,
fraud
how is that possible, February 28th? This happened yesterday.
alone. No.
If you cared about Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud,
Sorry.
you would kill Rick Scott. Okay? You wouldn't make Rick Scott, former governor.
You shouldn't be fucking laughing at that, Hassan. Okay, maybe this guy is more crazy than I am.
Florida Rick Scott, you wouldn't make him a prominent part of the Republican Party. Now, that seems like a wild thing to say. Oh my God. Is this person calling for the death of a U.S. senator? Of course not. I was not calling for the assassination of a U.S. senator. So I went back to figure out the context. Here it is. Let's take a look.
Are people who are covered by Medicaid now going to potentially lose Medicaid coverage as a result of this?
No, look, the White House has made a commitment. The president said over and over and over, we're not going to touch Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid. We've made the same commitment. Now, that said, what we are going to do is go into those programs and carve out the fraud, waste, and abuse and find efficiencies. Couple of examples. You know, there's about $50 billion.
So basically, we're not going to do it, but we are going to do it.
Estimated that are lost every year in Medicaid just in fraud alone. No.
That fraud is not coming from individuals. It's coming from providers. They're not tackling providers. They're not actually going after like false billing. They are trying to cut recipients. If you cared about Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott. The reason why I'm saying if you cared about Medicare or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott is because, and not make him a prominent part of the Republican Party, is because he to this day is still known as committing the largest Medicare fraud in U.S. history. They want to cut SNAP. They want to cut Medicaid. They want to cut the funding of Medicaid. They want to make it harder for people to receive Medicaid. They don't want to actually go after medical providers or the insurance companies or the nursing homes that are lining their pockets with major donations. Those are the people who actually engage in the fraud. It's not your uncle that's like lying about their condition and stealing money from the government by, you know, going to the doctor or whatever. Okay, so
Although
obviously
the uncle shouldn't
I
be
should
doing
have
that
used
either.
hyperbolic language, and there's definitely some ownership that I must take. Some apologies there. I should not have said Mike Johnson should kill Rick Scott. I should have simply said Mike Johnson should punish Rick Scott, perhaps with the, you know, maximum punishment, whatever that would be, for defrauding Medicare and Medicaid for over $1.7 billion.
The fact that they promoted him into the Senate is kind of funny.
Talk about the things that he did.
But
in
that's
this
the stuff.
process,
That's the kind of stuff that
because Rick
America
Scott
values these days.
co-founded the Columbia Hospital Corporation, which later merged to a corporation known as Columbia/HCA, which eventually became the nation's largest for-profit healthcare company. Rick Scott, who of course also looks like Voldemort, did a lot of things. The company defrauded Medicare, Medicaid, and other federal programs. The U.S. Department of Justice won 14 felony convictions against the company, which was fined $1.7 billion in what was at the time
That's
the
a lot of
largest
schmeckles.
healthcare fraud settlement in United States history.
HCA was defrauding the government.
HCA admitted to things like submitting inflated bills and exaggerating diagnoses to increase Medicare reimbursements.
According to federal investigators, the hospital company systematically
I think it's problematic because the general population of the West like just doesn't understand like the dire consequences that this fraud has on like the everyday. They just don't see how, okay, you skimmed a little off the top equals like mass poverty in the fucking country. They don't see it. They don't see it. They think, oh, a little harm, a little.
defrauded Medicare, Medicaid, and other federal healthcare programs while paying kickbacks to its physicians.
And how do you explain it? Like how do you, especially if you can't see what they did, how are you supposed to explain they go at such extensive lengths through payouts and stuff like that to hide their actions? How are you supposed to connect the dots? It makes it like exponentially more difficult.
Scott, of course, denied any wrongdoing.
Scott pled the fifth 75 times to avoid jail for Medicare fraud.
He didn't go to jail over this. He didn't
Is
even
that a
get any
record?
punishments over this. And Scott's resignation certainly was fantastic. For his pockets, he walked away with $10 million in severance pay, a 5-year consulting contract, and $300 million in stock and options. He is now the wealthiest member of the United States Senate. Rick Scott
Cat said hi. Hi to Cat.
also in the past apologized, took ownership seemingly over his actions, but since then, in his endless interest in gutting all of these social safety nets so the American poor suffer more, Rick Scott has actually seemingly turned around and thinks that this was political prosecution, pure political prosecution against him.
No, I'm fed up. I watched what happened to me and my company. I've watched what's happened. I've talked to business people over the years, what's happened to them when you have political persecution.
What I was simply trying to say
Yeah,
is,
tell that to somebody who owns literally nothing. Oh, your company suffered. Your company suffered.
Republicans don't care about the actual fraud that
What are you
takes
gonna do?
place in terms of government entitlements programs, in terms of government expenditure. Because if they did,
Is not even. Is the business even still successful? Like, did it actually fail?
they obviously would punish Rick Scott. Rick Scott would not be a prominent fixture of the Republican Party. Rick Scott, who was elected as
'Cause
the
it sounds like the
governor of
business-
Florida after he committed the largest Medicare fraud in U.S. history at the time.
$73 million. That's the amount that we know about so far that Scott and the Republican Party spent on TV advertising.
Rick Scott, who then went on to become the Florida senator.
On Sunday, a manual recount confirmed Republican Governor Rick Scott's victory over the incumbent Democrat Bill Nelson.
Once again, after doing insane amounts of Medicare fraud.
Elon Musk posted on X his support for Florida Senator Rick Scott for Senate Majority Leader.
This was simply the point. But of course, Republicans want to avoid this point. Asmongold, for those of you who don't know, is a right-wing political commentator. He does have some centrist opinions every now and then. I believe he himself actually is a big advocate for healthcare, likes Bernie Sanders, but spends most of his time simply sitting around and reacting to Donald Trump. He is now officially, by my estimations, a larger right-wing political commentator than even the likes of Ben Shapiro. Very successful in this field. His videos reacting to Donald Trump get millions of views, more so than the Daily Wire could ever dream of. Asmongold also is the largest political content creator on Twitch in general. He's the largest political streamer now. He's double my size.
Okay. I'm pretty sure that Asmongold is so relatable because he started off as somebody who played World of Warcraft in his parents' attic, and think about it. You're playing World of Warcraft in your parents' attic, you know, and I think he was getting government assistance at the time because, for obvious reasons, I think he used to work, and then the work that he was doing was like, yeah, fuck this. It's not worth the like anybody could tell you 9-to-5 job just it sucks ass, and it's hard to do it, especially if you're getting paid peanuts. So he was just, imagine like you're playing World of Warcraft, you're living you're not living a good life, but you're doing the things you enjoy. I'm sure he misses those days. I'm sure those were some sick ass days for him. And now he's one of the wealthiest streamers on Twitch. Like, the psychological burden that takes is gotta be interesting, because this guy wouldn't even I don't even think like he wouldn't shower for like sometimes days on end, which relatable because sometimes I don't want to shower too, so completely understandable. But to make it so far is crazy. It's kind of like a fairy tale story, you know?
He's always been double my size, but he's now double my size when it comes to political commentary as well. So let's see what the largest free speech defender had to say. He actually voluntarily brings this up in a YouTube video called "What the fuck is Twitch doing?"
By the way, just to set the context here, as far as I know, these people do not like each other very much. That's my assumption.
YouTube videos from 2 days ago with 1 million views. The first 13 minutes of it is just reacting to the latest Ethan Klein video, who is falsely smearing me as someone who doesn't care about Israeli civilians or whatever, which is obviously incorrect, but we'll get to that perhaps down the line. He packaged that up with the Libs of TikTok video to call for my banning.
Let me see if I can find it here. Like I do, as I said, I do try to maintain a degree of neutrality with a lot of this stuff. And I try not to go too like super hard on it. I'll link you guys the video real quick before I get into it. And
he's linking the Ethan Klein video to his audience because, you know, to show support.
Yeah, there's the video. It's the Ethan video.
Perhaps this is the reason why Ethan Klein doesn't talk about Asmongold and his apologia for certain regimes of the past. You know, Ethan, who really cares about anti-Semitism, of course. That's why he constantly comes after me, someone he knows has a long track record alongside him at times attacking anti-Semites and explaining to people what famous dog whistles are and things of that nature. But that'll be for a different day.
People are so ideologically captured. It's sad. I think a lot of people are. I saw this the other day, actually this morning. Where is it here? Here we go.
Hey, Dan Clancy. Time to wish us on another happy birthday song, you hack fuck. Anyone else will get permabanned on Twitch for this. This is beyond the pale. This is enticing your audience to kill a sitting senator. Don't people go to jail for this? This is not me enticing my audience.
Enticing,
to kill a
yeah.
US senator.
Okay.
That
Anyways,
is
this is
ridiculous.
just- okay.
Everybody knows that is ridiculous. The people that are complaining about this know that is ridiculous. But I'm glad that I was able to show you the context, the full context of what I was talking about. If you cared about Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud, you would Rick Scott, okay? You wouldn't make Rick Scott, former governor of Florida, Rick Scott, you wouldn't make him a prominent part of the Republican Party.
That is crazy. That is nuts.
It's a bit much.
And I've said before, there's a statute of limitations, but apparently this was yesterday. Yeah, this happened yesterday even. Oh my God. How's that not against the TOS? It is. And it is an open call to violence. And I would challenge anybody who thinks that it's not an open call to violence to say that exact thing about Donald Trump, and then tell me if Secret Service shows up at your house or not. Really.
A lot of people have... Okay.
It's very obvious.
There are many people, unfortunately, who have advocated for the death of Donald Trump. I don't know if Secret Service is going to show up at your house. They shouldn't be doing it, but...
And Twitch doesn't do anything? Well, I don't know if they've really seen it or anybody's reported it or anything like that.
I think Asmongold is covering this because he wants Twitch to see it. He's done this a couple times in the past couple of weeks. I understand. We are ideologically butting heads on Twitch. Asmongold and I disagree vehemently on a lot of issues, all the way from the history of Nazi Germany down to the fact that immigrants are not actually contributing to the American crime rates in the way that the Republican administration presents it. They're not destroying our culture in the way that Asmongold approaches the subject matter. There's plenty of disagreements there, and I think that he's doing this deliberately, I will say, in an effort to, shit stir a little bit and try to get me banned, which worked.
The clip's too short. Maybe it's out of context.
I don't think...
I hope so.
Just for the record, even if Asmongold had said nothing, I'm assuming he still would have got banned. Like, Twitch would have found out about it. I don't know. You have to play fair on the platform, and Twitch is in an interesting position in the sense that I'm trying to think. If it's against TOS, they know, like, they know that if Hassan has done something against TOS and they have like rightful action to ban him, I don't think Hassan's gonna cry foul. He doesn't seem like the type. I could be wrong. This guy, on the other hand, has been, quote unquote, getting hit with the dirtier end of the stick. I'm talking about Asmongold now, and has cried fouled a few times, but his community is, I don't know, it's a little bit more unhinged. But then again, that's just some random person's take on the internet.
I definitely do. Hopefully it's out of context. How are you gonna...
Now, once he said this...
Wait, what did he say?
Asmongold...
Hopefully clip's too short. Maybe it's out of...
to, shit stir a little bit and try to get me banned, which worked.
The clip's too short. Maybe it's out of context. I hope so. I definitely do. Hopefully it's out of context. How are you gonna...
Now,
okay,
once he said this, does Asmongold go back and seek out the context? No, he doesn't. Instead, he follows through, basically packaging this as a Hassan is a radical who must be banned. It's a joke, Lamau, he responds to.
The thing with, okay, his community is best described by some words. Look, here's the thing. I can't... The problem with Asmongold... I hate this so much. But here's the thing. Now that I've told you his background and how he, like, basically grew up... If you were walking on the street and you saw him, you might think this gentleman is homeless back in the day. Now he's more groomed and stuff like that. But, like, I have to ask, as somebody who grew up the way Asmongold did, what do you think he thought, There's this Bill Burr. Like, what do you think he thought? Like, this shouldn't come. Asmongold's... You know who does surprise me? Asmongold's father's takes. His takes are actually quite, like, well expressed. unbiased. Surprisingly enough, I've watched a podcast with Asmongold, and by the way, Asmongold is a very intelligent individual. A lot of people say that this man is an idiot. Absolutely not the case. I'll give you an example. He explained something to me on it was a Steak and Eggs podcast. I was listening and I'm just like, oh shit, this guy is very, very smart. It's something that you've probably heard before, or something that maybe you're familiar with, but it's product placement within a grocery store. For example, Walmart. He was explaining how, why do you think essential goods, random essential goods like milk and eggs are placed at the back of the superstore? It's so that you can walk through the other shit, so that you might get distracted and buy things that you don't actually need until you get to the thing that you actually need. And people don't really think of these kinds of product placement things. Maybe they've been taught in school back in the day, but now when I walk in the grocery store, that's all I can look at. I'm like, why is this here? Why is that there? Asmongold is a very intelligent human being. He wouldn't have made it as far as he did if he wasn't a quote-unquote idiot. So if anybody that says that this guy is stupid, I completely disagree for obvious reasons. This guy is not an idiot. I think he's very smart. I think his intelligence at this time is well wasted. I genuinely think, but what am I surprised? No. What do you think he thought?
Would you tell that joke about Donald Trump?
I think people would tell way crazier jokes about Donald Trump.
Bro,
and people have told way crazier
so many people hate. What?
Jokes about Donald Trump. My statement was hyperbolic. That much is obviously clear. But the intention of it was not a call to violence directly against a sitting senator, but instead was to show the hypocrisy of the Republican Party in terms of how little they truly care about Medicare and Medicaid fraud, because that happens at the point of the provider and not necessarily in the point of the recipients. They want to cut Medicare and Medicaid for the recipients to the tune of $800 billion. And in order to justify that, they will do everything in their power to lie and claim that it's actually your grandparents that are stealing from Medicare and not people like Rick Scott. Because people like Rick Scott either fund the Republican Party and oftentimes the Democratic Party as well, or they sometimes run for office as Republicans.
Rick Scott has won re-election to the United States Senate. Here are the numbers.
That's the point. Now, should the likes of Asmongold seek out further context? I think yes. I think when you
know what? I don't even think Asmongold needs to seek out further context. He knew what was up. It happened to him several other times. He knows the game. Who seeks out context or not? He knows what the reality of the situation is.
Millions of people watching your videos. It would be nice to at least inform them of what the true context is. And now that this context exists, will Asmongold watch this video? Will he go back and say, hey, my bad? Maybe. I'll be honest. Perhaps he will do that. We shall see.
Donald Trump didn't commit Medicare fraud, but yes, if he did, then yes. Okay, so then no.
He then follows up with another tweet of mine. This isn't Assange's only first foray into political violence. This was the weapon used to assassinate Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Archive link and reply to his now deleted post. Well, I didn't delete it. Twitter forced me to delete this.
But I'll tell you this, it's not the first time.
Let me see.
This is the second time. No joke. Yes, neither of these, by the way, have resulted in any sort of action from Twitch at all. You're ready?
People who get stuck behind. People who get stuck behind the pro-Hamas mobs. Expel it, caps.
Your Reddit advocated for killing too. Sorry for spam. Yeah, but here's the difference, right? When did my Reddit advocate for killing people? When did this happen? And also, when did I advocate for it?
He also then, to further push the narrative that I am a radical, a scary radical who advocates for violence, he shows this tweet, briefly, my old tweet that Twitter actually forced me to ban, which is a tweet where I, quote, retweeted sitting U.S. Senator Tom Cotton who was advocating to kill peaceful pro-Palestinian demonstrators all the way from April 16th, 2024, almost an entire year ago, where I famously, quote, retweeted the doohickey, or I guess a meme of a doohickey that was responsible for the assassination of Shinzo Abe. Now, of course, this wasn't serious. I fib. I did this in response to a sitting U.S. senator who had previously in the New York Times written about executing Black Lives Matter protesters by using the military. And this time around, April 5th.
Okay. What I'm seeing here is like an eye for an eye. I'm not, this post, considering the, I think Hassan sees, it's hard when you hear these senators speak about, certain senators, not all senators obviously, speak about other people's lives so callously. I think he did the thing that they do. And I think he should. I don't know. Maybe I'm seeing it a little bit wrong, but in his excitement, I think he did the thing that they do, and I don't think this is a good look for him.
15th was
but maybe
encouraging
I'm
people. I'm going to read you his words. Senator Tom Cotton said this: "I encourage people who get stuck behind the pro-Hamas mobs blocking traffic. Take matters into your own hands to get them out of the way. It's time to put an end to this nonsense." This was, of course, a direct call to violence from a sitting senator, a direct call to violence against peaceful protesters engaging in an act of civil disobedience.
If something like this happened in Arkansas,
it's fighting fire with fire. That's what he was doing in his eyes. I don't know.
On a bridge there, let's just say I think there'd be a lot of very wet criminals that have been tossed overboard, not by law enforcement, but by the people whose road they're blocking.
So he then doubled down on it and said, we do things differently around these parts. I mean, he's advocating for a direct call for violence. I jokingly, quote, retweeted that statement with the doohickey. But of course, that was apparently a bridge too far as well for Asmongold. I'm sorry. I've offended Asmongold's sensibilities. Of course, no comments on Tom Cotton, a sitting U.S. senator, actively urging his constituents to go out and kill peaceful demonstrators who are, dare I say, peacefully demonstrating against a genocide. Well, make no mistake, it's most likely that Asmongold is simply responding to the things that he sees in his chat. Having said that, I wanted you guys to see the full context of the story. I was obviously not asking for people to kill Rick Scott. I think that would be ridiculous. I think that justice should be served, however, and justice has not been served against Rick Scott in this case. Justice rarely ever gets served against rich people who exploit others, against rich people who defraud the federal government. You get a $10 million care package with $300 million in stock options for defrauding poor people that absolutely need this medical care. And then Republicans will turn around and act like the real fraud is happening at the point of the recipients and not the point of the providers.
There's about $50 billion estimated that are lost every year.
Just, how can you not get, how can you not get agitated when these people just spew lie after lie in their nice suits and stuff like that? And, I don't know. I don't know what these people want. These people, I don't know what they want. I guess they want power and just like for the poor people to just toe the line, but like they don't. There's no empathy. You how can you not ask yourself what if that was you on the other side? Are you so sure of yourself? Like
in Medicaid, just in fraud alone. No one's for that. We've got to make sure we eliminate it. We have the algorithms now to do that. We have advanced technology to find it.
Thank God for Speaker Johnson.
That is my anger. That is my frustration. And every single person, not Asmongold, but every single Republican operative online, from Tim Pool to Libs of TikTok to many others, know that that is the reality. But they also want you to be distracted. They don't want you to realize that this is what the Republicans are doing. So I urge all liberals, progressives, or even people who are worried about their grandparents or their parents losing their health care, people who might be worried about their children no longer being able to receive Medicaid, to focus on who the vectors of harm truly are, what they're actually doing, instead of constantly engaging in petty squabbles. I shouldn't have used the term kill. I should have used either the term capital punishment or just punishment in general. But once again, I've let you down. I've used hyperbolic language, and that hyperbolic language has brought trouble my way. As one of the largest progressive, leftist, political content creators online in what feels like is a sea of reactionary sentiment. As one of the largest progressive, leftist, political content creators online in what feels like is a sea of reactionary sentiment, I am promising you that I will try to use more deliberate and more careful language going forward. Having said that, of course, in an 8 to 10 hour broadcast, when I'm constantly in a contentious battle with members of the chat, because there's always free flow conversation and a lot of back and forth going on in the community, there will probably be some moments that are clippable, but I will try to minimize them to the best of my ability. On that note, I love you all, and I will see you when I'm unbanned.
Huh. Well then. I don't know. Sometimes it's easier to get angry at the softer target, you know? Sometimes it's easier to get angry at the softer target.